Hey everybody, welcome back to Sketchcraft. Shout out, I am Rob D. Joining me as always, my buddy Uncle Jerk. Say hi.
Hi.
Thank you for that, Uncle Jerk. As always, we are on the road to 20,000 subs here on the Sketchcraft channel. We're at 17 plus, almost at 18K. We're trying to get to 20,000 this month. Let's make 2025 the year we hit 20,000 subs. Also, if you check out Uncle Jerk's channel, he's currently at 12,000. We're trying to get him up to 15 this year. 15 subs. 15 subs. 15,000 subs.
I'll take 15 subs. Come on.
Do you know what this is? And if you don't, feel free to say you don't.
I do not. I mean, I can make certain assertions, but I shan't do as such because I don't know what this image is. No.
This is, to my recollection, the only time Scott Williams has inked Greg Capullo.
Okay, that's what I thought we were looking at for the image for the Wizard.
Yes, in Wizard issue, I think it's 48, right? I'll get the exact. I'll put the cover up. It's a Jim Balent cover. It was a couple years ago. Cartoonist Kayfabe was covering that issue, and they got to this little section of the magazine where this is something called brush off, right? And in Brush Off, it's this article right here from Wizard Magazine, where they have a drawing, a piece of pencil, a pencil sketch that Capullo did, and they have 5 different inkers ink it, and you get to see the difference.
Oh, okay.
But what they didn't do was they never gave a full page of the pencils, and they never gave a full page to each of the inkers. They just have the pencils buried back here, and then they take a little snippet in color, a red, a green, and then they go here. The pink is Klaus Janson, the orange is Scott Williams, the blue is Palmiotti, right?
God, I want to see the Danny Mickey. Oh,
the Danny Mickey's in red, which is right here, right? Right. And that's
Wizard,
Look,
you fools!
They never show the whole thing.
Seamus, you monster.
So I thought we would look at, I actually own, the physical copy of the Scott Williams stuff. I thought we'd look at it and then maybe go through this article too. How about we read it together a little bit, figure out what's going on here. Right?
Yes.
So I did get a copy. We were really lucky years ago on DeviantArt, which I'm still on. But Google, why are you still on DeviantArt? This is why, folks. This is why. The guy, Ray Martin, he posted his version up, right? On DeviantArt, and he was able to put the photo stat. He got this. This was the photo. He just got this photocopy of the pencils. Look at what they had to ink.
Oh, okay, cool.
Look at all the soft Capullo shading, which by the way they've blurred in here for some dumb reason. It's probably just the way the scanner came in. It's one of those cheap scanners.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's faxed in, guaranteed.
But Capullo has that soft shading in his pencils. You can see any.
Oh yeah.
And look at what they had to ink from too. What is this? This is a monster. This is almost Alex Nino on an Etch-a-Sketch, right?
Dude, I was just getting ready to say this looks like Jeff Darrow had an epileptic seizure.
Right. I like the drawing, but you need the full pencils to render this, and they didn't even get the full pencils.
Yeah.
So it's a fucking crazy.
Normally you would, but you were literally talking about Klaus Jan. I didn't see the entire list. Was Palmiotti was on there too, right?
Yeah, Jimmy Palmiotti, Klaus Janson, Gary Martin, Ray McCarthy, and Scott Williams.
Okay, well, 2 of those chips are not like the others, but I mean, that's some heavy hitters right there. You can like or dislike Scott Williams stuff, and that's totally cool. Recognized games, son.
Okay,
same with Danny Mickey.
I own original Danny Mickey inks, and I own original Scott Williams inks. And I'm gonna tell you, they're both very, very good. When you see this stuff up close, you can't believe it's real.
No, I don't know how they do. And I grew up looking at guys like Sam Keith and that kind of stuff. And over time, looking at them, I figured out how they make their marks. They have very telling marks from different tools they use and stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? You just basically
I'm just pretty good at doing that in real time.
Picture.
Look how clever I am. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. But I mean, like that's pretty nuts, folks. You know, like, and I think too with Williams here, you're getting more of that Terry Dodson Williams that kind of Mickey leans into with these like little dot ends, right? These little like.
That's exactly what I was looking at.
Not Terry Dodson. Terry Austin. Sorry, Terry Austin.
Terry Austin. No, yeah. I knew who you were talking about.
Yeah. The Terry Austin kind of, it's like these thin dot. Bro, it comes on the original Image Comics board. Right? Like he just taped the vellum on some Image Comics. So you got a nice, I got a nice clean sheet of Image Comics board if I ever wanted to. The reason why I picked it up is because I was pissed when this friggin' article came out, because I was a subscriber to Wizard Magazine. When this article came out, I remember reading it, like I would just want to see the whole pencils, and I want to see each. Why isn't there like, 10 more pages of this or 5 more pages? Each one of these guys should have at least 2 up, right? The pencils, the finals, the pencils, the finals. Like it's Wizard. You guys got the space. What's up, Scribblies? Check it out. I got a new website, Sketchcraft.com. I've had the URL forever, but I've been working on my own website here on Squarespace where I can put all my art in one spot in case you don't like to do social media and the world's crumbling around you. You just want to hang out someplace that just has the cool art. Look, I got everything I've done in the past 20 years. You want to see Spawn kills every Spawn? All right, you want to see some concept art, some pages, covers, and stuff that I did for my latest series published by Todd McFarlane and Image Comics? You can check it here. There's tons of stuff, folks. There's tons of stuff in here, not just examples, but concept art. Look, thumbnails, all that good stuff here on Sketchcraft.com. Also, I got a shop. If you'd like to buy some original art from me, this is where I put it. Right now, this is gonna fill up, folks. I got a lot more. We got stuff for $50. We got poster prints. We got original art. My scribblies, all this stuff right here. You can sort it by you can sort by the newest stuff. So if you want to see what's new, you can always click right there. I put this all together myself on Squarespace, so I would appreciate if you check it out. Sketchcraft.com. All right, back to the show. Peace. What's up, crafties? Spawn kills every Spawn, drawn by yours truly, out on shelves now. Issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, and issue 4, all on the stands. Local comic book shop, you can get them, as well as Amazon, everything else. Plus, on December 18th, 2024, issue 5 drops. Oh my gosh, look, I already have it. It's ahead of time. I got it early for the Christmas season, but December 18th, you can grab it too. And don't forget, if you look on eBay and around, you'll be able to find the Spawn Kills Every Spawn sketch cover. I might even have a few in my store soon with some commissions and drawings and stuff on it. So get one there. And don't forget about the limited to 500 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive edition Spawn Kills Every Spawn issue 1, featuring my line arts. Wouldn't it be cool if they had done all these as secondary covers? But hey, go bother Todd about it. In the meantime, if you want to support me, help pay the bills, please, folks, go to your comic book shop, pick up some Spawn Kills Every Spawn. All right, and now back. So I just want to check this article. So it says, Claus Jansen has a bone to pick with Wizard. In the Chuck Dixon article, Wizard 44, the Punisher illustration was credited to John Romita Jr. That's not true. It was drawn by John Romita Jr. and inked by Claus Jansen. Continues a successful inker. I love to not credit writers for a year and see what happens. We're so used to diminishing the contributions of the other artists on the book that people don't even blink when you see a credit that doesn't include the other half of the art team. What's changed there, Uncle Jerk? What's changed there? We now have whole trade paperbacks that only say the writer on the book, right? And look, even Rob Liefeld admitted on his podcast, he all credits it to when Image left, Marvel stopped crediting artists or making a big deal out of them, and the industry followed.
No. I think that the reasons for that are a little bit more complex than like most people are giving that credit for. Not on a specific, but on a more generalized basis, are about a return to a really lazy house style. And like, it's because page rates haven't gone up in fucking 40 years. Like, you can't live on those page rates. Simple period.
We are diverting from the article though, Uncle Jerry. It's a whole nother conversation. Let's continue on there. All you have to do is go to a convention, and it's obvious that the pencilers get more fan attention. Wildcats inker Scott Williams deserves. I don't have a problem with that. Inkers are kidding themselves if they don't think that a pencil job is more difficult. But it's not that the pencil lines will eventually show up. It's not that the pencil lines will eventually show up. Sometimes I compare it to a rock band. The pencil's like the lead singer or guitarist. They're the one up front who the women are throwing their panties to. Oh, man. This is a sign of the times, isn't it, my man? Isn't it? Isn't it? But you know what? They've got to have the rhythm section.
Totally
That's what Inkers rolls on.
that.
I know. It's a little bit different these days. It's no wonder that the inker is usually the forgotten member of the art team. Pencilers generally get more money for their work and they gain more prestige, at least from the public. This attitude, according to veteran Dick Giordano, stems largely from ignorance. They really don't know what the inker does. They think it's a non-critical job because they're not familiar with the process. People in the industry, however, recognize the value of the inker. Do you think this whole article came from Chasing Amy?
Dude, I'm totally getting that feeling.
Yeah, because they were totally tied into Kevin Smith and Mallrats. I mean, I found out about Mallrats through Wizard Magazine, so I think this probably came from Chasing Amy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, in Chasing Amy, there's a whole thing about an inker being a tracer, so definitely go check that movie out. In the most basic terms, the inker's job is to prepare the artwork for a reproduction. Jansen, who teaches at the School of Visual Arts in New York City, puts it in historical perspective. The only technical reason why inkers exist is because penciling did not reproduce 100 years ago. Inking started out to prepare drawings for newspaper reproduction. So they're writing this for this is for newbies, right? This is not, this is not comics journal level, they're explaining the basics. Nexus and Wildcats inker Gary Martin, who is currently working on a book called The Art of Inking Comic Books, which, by the way, legendary book these days, would you say?
Yeah.
Right? So they're writing this as he's working on the book. I think that's a red letter moment, though. The American comic book form that we know has been defined more by a black ink line than by a graphic pencil line. How do you feel about that line? Yes, that's true.
I
right?
would actually agree with that to a very large extent.
Yeah,
for better or worse, yeah, I think so.
No one on God's green earth other than Bill Watterson and his parents knows what his pencils look like. Right? On a technical level, the inker's job is to take brush or croquis pen in hand and draw over the penciled artwork, which is ultimately erased. I'm Vince Coletta, right? The ghost of Jack Kirby just entered the room, folks. Hold on.
And punched a Nazi in the face.
Yeah. This is an irony many comic book readers don't seem to appreciate. The higher paid, higher profile penciler's artwork is necessarily destroyed in the process. I have enough ego to remind myself that every line I put down the page gets printed, and the penciler certainly can't say that, laughs inker Terry Austin, who came into prominence on the Chris Claremont, John Byrne issues of Uncanny X-Men.
Dude.
But one time, they are getting good quotes here, right? But one time on DC's Who's Who, Volume 1, Issue 6, I was at a Jack Kirby piece, The Demon, and I couldn't bring myself to erase the pencils. God bless you, Terry Austin, right? Honestly, folks, I have not read this article since 1995. I didn't even read it. I didn't even look at it. I'm so glad we're going through it. I did not know they were going to say that. Folks, you got to know, Vince Coletta was known as just Kirby would render these amazing pencils and then just... Nope. Get the page done and erase like 80% of the effort. It's kind of what they're talking about in the movie Unbreakable when Samuel Jackson's showing like the full rendered piece of a comic book part.
But beyond that, not only would Vince the Prince do that, but at one point when it was because Kirby didn't read his own comics. The printed books, he didn't read them because he just didn't have time. He didn't care. And at one point somebody was like, hey, look, dude, he is erasing your background. I believe it's Mark Evanier who told him. And if you want to learn more about this, check out my Jack Kirby documentary. Oh, another plug for Uncle Jerk. Woo! I am working it tonight, bitches.
I'll put a link.
They're like, dude, he is erasing entire backgrounds. He's erasing these because Kirby would put these wonderful crowd scenes in, right? And Vince was like, I didn't want to ink them, so he just erased them. So Kirby flies out to his house, doesn't fire him, doesn't do it. He flies out to his house like a man. And he's like, bro, you got to stop. And you know what Vince told him? Dude, stop drawing so much complicated stuff. I don't understand why you're so upset.
Company man, Vince Coletta. Right?
Oh my
I jest, but do you think Kirby had a harder time fighting the Hun or all right, let's move on. There are times when it's a pretty daunting job, Scott Williams concurs. You're given this beautiful piece, smeared and smudged and grayed and multi-valued, and you're supposed to turn it into simple black and white. It's really that simple. Inkers also enhance and clarify the visual aspect of comics. Ray McCarthy, who has worked with penciler Barry Kitson on the Adventures of Batman and Superman Shadow of the Bat. Very good stuff, by the way, those Adventures of Batman and Superman books. Inkers are like the punctuation on a sentence. The sentence can stand by itself, but the punctuation puts emphasis on the thought and clarifies the concept. Ray McCarthy is why we have this image available, by the way. So big shout out to Ray McCarthy. He's taken his DeviantArt page down, so I wish we could say follow him there, but if you find him, say hi. There are, of course, many ways of accomplishing that goal, as there are inkers, by varying line weights, spotting blacks, which means adding shadows, and using special effects like splatter. I know. Inkers give the finished artwork depth, focus, and texture. Hey, you know what? He's breaking it down for the moms and the pops here, right? A common misconception, although M-Dash's AI must have wrote this, a common misconception, not only amongst readers, but also held by some editors, according to Jansen, is that inking is a non-creative process, i.e. all an inker does is trace. You know this came from Chasing Amy. I say to anybody who thinks that, go ahead and try it. Right? Look.
Yeah.
Look, I mean,
try inking friggin' Sam Keith's pencils
Hey, try inking Greg Capullo's pencils.
Jesus, sweet mother of unholy God. Yeah.
The two basic approaches to the job can be loosely grouped under the headings inking and embellishing. An inker tries to keep what's there in the pencils as faithful as possible. Wildstar inker writer Al Gordon explains. Writer Al Gordon, Wildstar. Oh, I just crazy that he's known for the starfish guy. An embellisher is imposing his style over somebody else's pencil style. While all inkers embellish to a certain extent, there are certain practitioners whose styles are so distinctive that they are considered primarily embellishers. Jansen falls in that category, as do Bill Sienkiewicz, Kevin Nolan, and Tom Palmer. You think Tom Palmer is more of an embellisher?
What?
You think that?
I disagree with several of.
Kevin Nolan definitely embellishes because he puts his fucking mouth on everyone's art. So you keep your fucking mouth off my art, Kevin Nolan. Like
Terry Austin, if that's the case, Terry Austin's at the top of that list.
And Sienkiewicz, no, I mean he inked, was it Gil Kane or he inked Neil Adams? Or, I mean, he follows. That's not true. Sienkiewicz.
He's a fucking brilliant ink, chameleon inker, dude.
Sienkiewicz is the greatest illustrator in our lifetime. I say that. Nobody has more range. He can do Alex Ross level rendering. He can do Bill Watterson level rendering. He invented art styles. I stand by it. Austin, on the other hand, sees his job as taking what's good in the pencils and improving it, and trying to be as invisible as I can be. A good inker has to be flexible and adapt to the needs of the project. Joe Rubinstein, who began as Dick Giordano's inking assistant when he was 13 years old, and has worked with, by his own estimation, close to 400 different pencilers in his career, has lived by that standard for many years. I can pretty much ink in any style I have to accommodate people I work with. I call up pencilers and ask them what it is they'd like me to do on this job, and then I try to give it to them. And as long as it doesn't go against my concept of what that should work or should look like, then we're all good. While there are many individuals who write, pencil, ink, and even letter and color their books, in general, comic production is a collaborative process, largely due to a matter of economics and scheduling. This means that rarely do pencilers ink their own work, which many inkers, surprisingly enough, find unfortunate. 9 times out of 10, the penciler is his own best inker, Dick Giordano maintains. Often it's impossible for one person to do complete artwork in a 30-day period. Jimmy Palmiotti, one of the most in-demand inkers of the last few years, agrees in principle. I work with Doug Mankey on Dark Horse's X. Oh man, I forgot about that one. And he's an amazing penciler. I inked him and I had
everyone else.
We only remember the Frank Miller cover. I inked him and I had a ball, and he loved the stuff. But I look at when Doug inks himself, and it's so much better than what I do. Same thing with Michael Golden and Mike Mignola. I own Palmiotti inks. I own one page from Ash, Cinder, the 22 Brides.
Cool.
It was Humberto Ramos drew it, and it's a really great piece. It's on the wall. I just don't want to take it off, but it's got the blue line still on there, you know, and it's very cool stuff, man. But when I see like what Ramos can do, I almost wish Ramos had inked it, you know. But it's still
no,
cool
when
piece.
a guy can ink his own stuff 99% of the time, you know, like doing the figures and stuff, like totally go for it. I think that like in large part, like the role of an inker post like maybe early 90s was that of like a finisher and guy who went in to add stuff like Jim Sinclair on Sam Keith. Like when people think of Sam Keith, like they don't think of Sam Keith. They think of Jim Sinclair and Sam Keith. When people think of John Byrne, they think of John Byrne and Terry Austin.
On the other hand, splitting art chores between two people can produce a final result that is superior to what either partner could accomplish separately. Now, I like this line. Rob Liefeld said on his podcast not too long ago he says when an artist and an inker really collaborate, a third artist emerges.
Yes.
And
okay.
In Rob's own work, I'd say I've seen this a couple times. Most recently, he did this issue of Deadpool, Snake Eyes. It's called Dead Game. And the last issue, he had different artists come in and ink him. Neil Adams, a bunch of people. But one of those artists who inked him was Kevin Eastman. And
you showed me this, and it blew my freaking melon.
Yeah, I gotta grab it and put it up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But the combination of Kevin Eastman and Rob Liefeld, I'm like, just for the love of God, do something together. You know what I mean? Just do a Raphael Casey Jones series or something, you know? And again, let's get on with this. Again, Palmiotti, speaking of his penciling partner on Event Comics, Ash, and Valiant's Ninjak, observes that Joe Quesada inking himself is not that good. No publicist, folks. He doesn't understand the tools, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. It's funny because Quesada inks himself all the time now, right?
Christ.
All right, let's go. An inker can give another pair of eyes to the work, Gary Martin adds. The medium favors specialization. Most of the inkers working today have a knack for inking, where some pencilers don't. You agree with that? You think like specializing in inking produces the better? I mean, I found that the best inkers actually can draw like a motherfucker. Like you really got to know how to draw, you know. But the guys who draw the most,
like I don't know,
don't always do good inks. I don't know.
I think that you have to have a very good understanding of anatomy, and I think you need to understand like light sourcing. I don't know. Okay.
You know what I think you got to understand? I think you got to understand volumetric surfaces on two-dimensional planes, and a lot of guys don't. That's why tracing doesn't equate, because you have to know that there's like here, you got to know that this is a three-dimensional surface that's curving over, right? And so they're adding these tick lines over to make you feel that surface. They're not adding tick lines
that's why
to just embellish.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
As a guy who does recreations, totally, I feel you, because you can't. Like everybody's like, okay, you just lightbox stuff. I'm like, dude, if you just lightbox stuff and trace it, you can spot it from a mile away, because you're just reproducing random shit.
It's called contour outline drawing. If you just draw the outlines of buildings, it's not going to look right. You have to know the form. And so a great inker has to be an artist, an illustrator who understands form. But all right, let's go on. Extreme Studios inker Danny Miki, Bad Rock. Bro, this is 95, all right? You know, like Bad Rock.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to tell Shelby they credit him Bad Rock. That's the credit he gets. Also finds that a lot of pencilers can't control a pen nib as well as they can control their pencils. That's true. Rubenstein puts it, that's true. Rubenstein puts it all in perspective. Musician Simon and Garfunkel, this guy grew up in the 70s. You know what I mean? Fucking Simon Garfunkel are fine on their own. No, they're not. Garfunkel wasn't fine on his own. That's not even good. But together, I think they had a magic that they don't have separately. No, Simon was fine on his own. Like, he won Grammys. Dude, he won Grammys on his own.
I know. He's a beautiful songwriter, and Garfunkel has the voice of an angel, but he's not
Garfunkel can do nothing on his own, man. Simon could, so it's not the same thing. So anyway, when you get someone like John Buscema penciling Conan the Barbarian, while he's certainly canning beautifully, when Tony Zanuga, I thought that stuff had a magic to it that had never been achieved before. You know, that's a fair take, actually. You know, you get the third artist. That's what he's talking about. You get the third artist.
Yeah. When Alfredo Alcala would come on to guys, you would see that stuff. Okay. Yeah. Yeah,
I would see it in the coloring. I was never that into inkers, but when I saw like Steve Olaf show up on a book coloring, like in Legends of the Dark Knight, the issues is Tim Salinger. There was these 3 issues featuring the Corsair. It was like this Zorro kind of like thief clone, you know, and they were digitally colored. And Steve Olaf shows up with that. I'm like, what is this? So yeah, I definitely think that changed the look. Certain combinations definitely have their own special magic. Murphy Anderson's inks over Kurt Swan's pencils on various Superman titles during the 60s were so distinctive that people used to refer to the team as Swanderson. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and they signed stuff like that. There was a couple other people that were like that. Severin and Bill Everett.
Should I start calling him Capiki, Capullo, and me? You think Capullo would kill me if I? He's probably. Hey, Capiki.
Well, like it's cool because like Bill Everett and Mary Severin have a signature 7-Eleven. Bill Everett and Mary Severin. It's fucking awesome. I was like, cool. What? I saw a picture and it said 7-Eleven. I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Sorry, I'm a Mary Severin.
I didn't know that. No. Thanks for sharing. I did not know that. Many believe that while Jack Kirby was unquestionably the king, he never looked quite as regal as when he was inked by Joe Sinnott. While the right pairing of pencil and inker can be crucial, all too often that pairing is left to chance. I think it's crucial to bring the inker into the creative process from the very beginning because his contribution defines the overall look of the work, Martin insists. Usually, however, the editor won't think of an inker until after the pencils have already been started. Yeah. Yeah.
At that point for Marvel and DC, absolutely. Image, I don't think that's the case whatsoever. But
most inkers will concede that the penciler is the senior partner of the artistic team. Gordon puts it in cinematic terms. We are definitely secondary to the penciler. The penciler's telling the story, so he's a director. He decides what everyone wears, so he's a costume designer. He's deciding what the people look like, so he's casting. He's also lighting everything, so he's a cinematographer. Okay, though. Does this mean that the inker has no role in the storytelling process? Most assuredly not, says Martin. Let's finish. You need to direct the reader's eyes to where he should be looking. Foreground, background separation by the inker makes the artwork easier for the reader to interpret. Explains Martin. The inker also provides clarity, mood, and atmosphere. That's called the cinematographer.
Thank you.
Literally
I was like, no, you're the cinematographer and the director of photography. Really, I mean, that's right.
The writer's the writer, the artist's the director, and the inker's the DP. That's these days probably the colorist because we don't have a lot of
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Most inkers vary their inking technique to accommodate different penciler style. In Giordano's experience, it might not always be apparent, but often you choose a particular technique based on the penciler's strengths and weaknesses. If the penciler does a lot of small figure work, I'll be more inclined to use a pen to get the cleaner line. If the penciler's work is organic and looks like real stuff like Neil Adams, I'm more likely to use a brush to retain the look of the material. What do you think about that? Why are you laughing?
Giordano talking about I adapt my style. But, dude, no.
Did you ever see any difference in inking from Giordano? It was like the same thing, right? Like,
dude, he is the definition of put it in front of me and let me get it out here within 35 minutes.
I'm sure it started that way, and he says it a lot, but then it's not really what happens.
No, it did not start that way, dude. Like a nice guy. A lot of stuff he did that's really cool, but no.
The inker's reaction is largely based on how tight the pencils are, i.e. how much detail they contain. Some pencilers are extremely detailed, while others only provide sketchy panel breakdowns or layouts. Jerry Ordway, who inked both Crisis on Infinite Earths over George Perez and 0 Hour over Dan Drugan, totally the same thing, right? 0 hour in Crisis.
I think they're trying to show the breadth of.
I know.
But yeah, no,
Yeah,
I mean, because Jerry, oh
0
my
hour.
God, yeah, go ahead. Oh God,
Jerry has seen both ends of that spectrum. If the penciler is doing very tight pencils, you just try to bring out the pencils and make sure that it reads well in black and white. On 0 hour, I was working from Jan Jurgens' breakdowns.
Oh,
where there was no lighting and it was pretty much figure placement and storytelling. Everything else was up to me. And Bruddy, that's why that fucking book sucked.
Oh my God, dude. Dude, like these are the twats that they had working on the death of Superman. Like, what the fuck, dude?
I take it back. We should read some of these articles. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to go through a whole issue, Wizard, but let's start digging some of these. This is
dude,
gold, bro.
I will eviscerate this shit, man. I love listening to this stuff. I say this with a lot of love because I love a lot of these guys, but like, no.
I love that Jerry Ordway is just like, they let him talk too much. You know, yeah. Whereas they didn't finish it. Whereas George Perez actually drew some shit, and it was amazing. Joe Rubinstein also worked with Jurgens, most recently on Superman. Some people call you up and say they don't like any variety in the line or contour. They want a very understated line. On the other hand, Dan Jurgens emphasized that he wants as much variation in line thickness as possible. Then I kick in my inking 101 approach, and I go to a more traditional thick and thin line. So what you're saying is Jurgens is all over the place.
Yeah, he's a powerhouse. He is.
Yeah, but can good inking save bad pencils? That is open to debate. Oh, I wanna hear what this. Jimmy Palmiotti says yes.
And then he throws Joe Quesada under the bus more, and he's like, would you like to look at the latest new pencils for Ash and laugh your ass off? Fuck.
Hey, why don't Quesada and Palmiotti not team up anymore? Like, I wonder why, right?
I don't know why they don't get along. It seems like a totally non-antagonistic relationship.
What if they just ended the article on that line? Like, what if that was it? You're like, oh, huh.
What the hell, dude? That's just evil, man. What's right? God, you're an anchor, bro. Like, for real. What? Oh, my Jesus.
All right, here's the quote. You put Klaus Janson on anyone and you get the job back, it looks beautiful. Generally, however, the consensus is that, as Scott Williams puts it, the page is only as good as its weakest link. If you're a good inker, you can sometimes gloss over some of the drawing faults, but if it's bad storytelling, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
All inkers agree, however, that bad inks can easily ruin the best pencils in the world. Inkers are no less artists than pencilers, Klaus Janson states vehemently. The goals of inking are the exact same goals of the pencilers. We all have to deal with perspective and volume, how to communicate weight and three-dimensionality on a two-dimensional piece of paper. All of the challenges are exactly the same. Art is art. There is no difference. That's a good way to end the article. I'll say this about this article. Here's my problem with it. This should have been 12 pages. This article should have shown you the Vince Coletta and the Jack Kirby stuff, right? It should have shown you the Jan Jurgens, and I know this stuff was hard to get, but you should, you know what I mean? They could have gotten something.
It wasn't hard to get. You could have gotten the photo stats directly from them. Half of these guys are talking about shit they're working on then. You're telling me they don't have a fucking fax machine?
But here's what's crazy is there's like, we got all this stuff. We don't know anything about this piece being done, right? Let's see what they say here. Tips from the pros. Many readers hope to someday work in comics professionally, and some undoubtedly would like to be inkers. We asked a few inkers what tips they would give to would-be inkers and which pitfalls they should try to avoid. Scott Williams says, learn how to draw because there's so much interpretation that goes on. You got to know how to draw a knee or a tree. Jimmy Palmiotti says, I think inking is all about shading. It's all about light sources and giving weight to a figure. Let's see, Klaus Janson says, you need to think about light. I never ink a panel without thinking about where the light source is. That's smart, actually. Although, unfortunately, sometimes in the art, it's best to not have a light source because of the colors. And if you direct it with the inks, your colors may not pick up on it.
May not pick up on that shit, and then it reads all wonky and that happens a lot, dude.
Yeah. Jerry Ordway says, never be afraid to look at someone else's artwork. If it's someone did it right before you, you might as well learn from it. How did the last guy who inked Dan Jurgens' shitty pencils fucking do? That's what Jerry Ordway was thinking.
What the dude? What's your fucking
Ordway,
tip? Steal from everybody, cause fuck them. What is your problem, dude? Holy
Ordway's like,
shit.
I like AI. You know, no, he didn't say it. But I'm just like, man, I gotta say, Jerry Ordway, man, he's already a veteran at this point. So I'm like, just let him talk. Just keep going, Jerry. I want to hear what Jerry has to say. Terry Austin says, don't get trapped in the current vogue, because when that's no longer popular, what are you gonna do? That feels like his career is being surmised right there. This is like a guy who was the Vogue, right? And look, we all still think he's great, and the pros of this time would have said it, but the fans, as a kid, I was not like Terry Austin, right? So in the 90s, right? I know, but I'm reading the mainstream shit. You're reading Comic Journal, and you work at a comic shop, so you see a million comics. I don't see a million comics, right? So I'm the pop culture at this time, right? And we weren't, when we saw a Terry Austin, Jerome Byrne thing, it looked cool, but it looked, like the 80s. But I just feel like he's like admitting a personal truth. Like, what are you going to do when I'm no longer popular?
Well, but he is, but like the thing is that like all these 90s guys are still like, tell me Danny Mickey's not out there like making top dollar, Scott Williams, like these guys are not guys who, like, God bless their souls, have evolved their techniques past the, like, maybe 98, 99.
But do you
like
think, here's what I want to know, too, though. Do you think Terry Austin, if he had been offered to ink Spawn instead of Danny Mickey, he would have took the job?
Yeah, I would assume so.
I would just like to know, was he not being offered things, or was he did he think he was waiting for the big Marvel check at that time?
I think that really honestly, like after John Byrne's career fucking crashed and burned, like Terry Austin just fucking got really tossed under the bus because like the inkers were disappearing by and large in that era. He wasn't young. He wasn't like, like Rob Liefeld wasn't going to call him to do a book, which is weird, man, because it's like, you think about guys that are like synonymous with like the style that you really grew up on with like Art Adams and all of this stuff that really influenced John Byrne, the stuff that really influenced the genetics of that Image generation. And Terry Austin is a massive part of that. He's like Michael Golden. Like, why the fuck did Michael Golden get hired at Image? And finally, I figured out the answer to all of that. And if you guys want to know why Michael Golden never did any interior work out at Image, make sure you check out my Michael Golden documentary series. But like, Terry Austin,
Jerk's going into business for himself today on this episode of Sketchcraft.
Hey man, I get to drop all my shit. I'm fucking and like, but like seriously, Terry Austin, I think is in that same level of like, dude, if you'd have put his book, even it's not his name, okay. No, I'm not necessarily saying that like Terry Austin's name, but like his style, dude. Oh my God, put him over something like Jason Pearson. Can you imagine?
No. How about this? J. Scott Campbell. Because Austin was inking like that Art Adams stuff. Did he ink Art Adams? But yeah. So like, you know what I mean? Like I think he would have been a perfect fit on Danger Girl or something like that.
Brett Booth. Like contemporaneously right now, like Brett Booth, I think he would do, and Brett's been around for quite a while. I think he would have done a great job on Brett's stuff.
Danny Mickey says, observe everything. Look at shadows. Look at raindrops when it's raining on your windshield. Look at trees in the distance and decide how you'd ink that. Look, that is the most zen fucking shit I have ever heard. Like, if I played this slowly over like footage of these actual things and put it on a reel, I'll get 82,000 views.
I love how that's probably the most intelligent thing that anybody's told
brilliant.
you.
It's brilliant.
Like if they'd let Klaus Janson go on a little longer, it probably would have been that good too.
Dennis Kramer, The Invisibles. I do not know who this man is. Know when to stop. Each line has to make sense. Know when to stop. Mm-hmm. Know when to stop. There's a few extreme books they could have stopped on some of those things, don't you think? Barbara Kahlberg from Primal Force and the Strangers, and I do not know those books. Practice. Learn to use your tools to your best of your abilities. Never miss a deadline and never break a contract. What the? Like Barbara, man, like that's high school teacher advice right there. You know, like
She
never miss a
has
day.
been around a while. I'm guaranteeing you she's been around
But you
since
want to know
like
how?
the 80s.
But does Barbara Kalbrook run DC or Marvel? Because all the guys who run those companies missed all sorts of deadlines and broke plenty of contracts.
And they can do that, but you as an anchor,
Hey,
especially,
hey,
nah.
hey, what if you're right? You know, an inker has never risen to power, right? Only pencilers. Robert Jones from The Ray and Stormwatch. By the way, he must have inked over Casado on The Ray. You think, right?
Yeah,
I'll look that one up.
okay,
I like Casada's work on The Ray. A lot of beginners don't vary their line very much. They should get as much variation out of the line as they can to bring as life to the drawing as possible. He's talking about deadline, which I hate that term and disagree with vehemently. I want to hear what Carl Kiesel has to say. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, Kessel, yes.
No, hey man, I heard Rob Liefeld call him Kiesel, so I'm gonna say
I'm
Kiesel.
giving him shit. I mispronounced his name, and now it's a sorry.
Yeah, the very first rule of inking is the same as the very first rule of medicine. Do no harm. Make sure that what you hand in is no worse than what you were handed to begin with.
Carl Kiesel is the guy that had to ink Liefeld's Hawk and Dove mini, where like Liefeld started turning in pages that were missing hands and feet.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely turned in something better than what he was.
And if you guys want to learn more about that, make sure you check out the episode on my channel where I cover that in depth as well. Thank you very much. The Hawk and Dove incident.
All right.
Oh my God.
This is the most Jim Cornette
tonight, bro.
This is the most Jim Cornette we have ever gotten with Uncle
Jerk.
Right?
Like, what the hell, man? I've gone full on Hulk Hogan tonight. Going to sales myself.
So why do you think when I got done reading this as a kid, I was so angry? Yeah.
So I'm gonna say like because it had like so much potential, like it should have been longer, and like it was like missing. It feels like it's just pieces of this miss. You ever watch a movie where you're like, did they cut scenes out? And you find out later they did.
You know what they cut out? This. No, I don't know what they did. They didn't get any of their. How did they? None of these guys talk about how they inked this piece.
What they
thought of it. What they were bringing to. They didn't bring Greg up. What's this about? You know, they didn't. None of it. And so like I'm looking at this because I'm like, all right, I want to learn. Maybe I can like work on my inking because I didn't have a brush. I had a Uniball. You know what a Uniball pen is? Like, you know, those gray ones. That's what I had to ink my work with. And I was like, you can't fucking do nothing with this thing, which is funny because now I use it when I do remarks, which is really, I remember inking my own Spawn drawing going, you can't ink Spawn with the Uniball. And then just a month ago, I'm inking Spawn remarks with the Uniball because it'll not dry out on the gesso surface. And I'm like, look at that. I actually did a Spawn drawing with the Uniball, but you can't get that with the Uniball. But I remember looking at this going, I don't know what they did. I can see this, but there's no context for any of it. Like even here, they just tell you that these guys all took a time working the magic and the color, you know, like, yeah. So this is a great idea. They needed way more space, you know, way more space.
And they got the interviews too. There are like quotes here, like between that Danny Mickey and the Carl Kiesel quote and a couple other things, like, dude, and the Klaus Janson, that should have been like continuing on. They obviously cut that one off.
I would love to see if Paul J. Grant, if you're out there, Paul J. Grant, I'll hashtag him in the tags. I want to know, Paul J. Grant, did you write a much longer piece or agree to a much longer bit and editorial hosed you? Well, you know, this is like one of those, you know, those ads that you get like at 2 at night from like Better Call Saul. Have you been editorialized by Wizard Magazine? Have your articles been cut 20 pages short and truncated into total nonsense? You know, call 1-800-SKETCHCRAFT and we'll get to the fucking bottom of it because I would love to know. Leave a comment, like, subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications, and as always, folks, be bold.
Keep cartooning.
What's up, crafties? Make sure you follow me, Sketchcraft, at YouTube and Instagram and everywhere else on socials, as well as Jerk Comics on YouTube and on Instagram and all the other socials. You can also check out my stuff at sketchcraft.com, so we can find my art, and you can buy my stuff at shopsketchcraft.com. If you'd like to get some comics I've made, Spawn Kills Every Spawn, issue 1 through 4 on racks at all your comic book shops right now. Issue 5 out December 18, 2024, and the trade paperback coming to you July 29th, 2025, all the way next summer, but we're going to have cause to celebrate. Spawn kills every spawn. Go get that right now. Support the old Sketchcraft, and we'll see you next time. Peace.